Hello, everyone. I am David Nance, executive producer of the Inhuman Protection Agency project.
In this episode, we'll talk to David Nance, an experienced actor and director, and explore his most challenging roles, the importance of training for actors, and the dynamics of LA's acting community. We'll also discuss the benefits of versatility in filmmaking, the 48-hour film festival, and the role of directors in enhancing performances. David shares insights on his upcoming project, the Inhuman Protection Agency, or IHPA, using YouTube to introduce the characters and involving local talent from Washington State. He emphasizes simplicity and engagement in filmmaking and highlights the evolution of opportunities for indie filmmakers and the importance of balancing creativity with technical skills. You've played a variety of different roles over the years. Which character has been probably the most challenging to you to portray and why? Let's see. My goodness. Does it have to be a film role?
Uh,
No, just acting.
well, I say this because the most challenging role that I remember was playing Christopher Wren in Mousetrap on stage. The reason being is that it was one of those roles where I really had to pull out my acting chops, but also understand really what it meant to really embody a character. And the reason why I said that it is both for film and stage. I've always played character actors. I've always been a character actor kind of guy. And Christopher Wren, while it's a it's one of those, it's an Agatha Christie murder mystery, but it's not someone who is very one dimensional caricature, someone who comes in, says a funny line, gets a laugh. It's someone who really is going through a lot of pain and anguish and a lot of questioning of what he thinks of is life as a very young person, a very young, twisted person. And I really didn't do that up until then. And so I really had to, I wouldn't say I had to reach, but we had a really great director who helped. It was Larry Albert, the fantastic Larry Albert, who has done tons and tons of radio theater in the day. And so he has an understanding of what it meant to bring that from audio, but then trying to adapt this as an Agatha Christie play on a stage, bringing that aspect of directing us to really internalize. I never had a director that really did that before, so that was fantastic to get to understand, get to know, really dig into these types of characters. And so then after that, when I played some of these, some more deeper type of characters, it felt a little bit easier as I went. I wouldn't say easier, but wasn't as much of a challenge, I guess you can say. Um, and when I went into doing more dramatic roles to audition for, it was uh, more of a better understanding of how that works.
Yeah. So more of a familiarity and process and
Yes, to understand the process,
yeah.
because I wasn't really classically trained as an actor, I guess you could say. I mean, I had acting classes, but I was never part of um, the group or a part of Stella Adler's classes or things like that. I wasn't brought up. So, we were talking about on the filmmaking side that you have that old guard that comes with a set of skills that's been honed over years and years and years. Acting is of that as well. So you have people who are, this is the way that method is done. This is the way that this particular process is done. And I really didn't get that until very recently, probably like the past 5 years, when I started doing a class. I took John Jacobson's class at Freehold Studios, to give them a free plug. But to really help me kind of understand what it meant to do beats,
Okay.
which I never really did. Like to do the work that a lot of folks who are just kind of tossed into acting really don't find out until maybe after the fact. But it becomes very handy as tools of the toolbox to not be so overwhelmed by a challenging part, but then having those tools to understand how to break that down easier and how to do it well and how um, to do as much service as we can, not just for the character, but for for the scene, for the story.
Do you think people who want to get into acting, do you think that if someone says, "Hey, I'm gonna do a 48 hour," and they do that, and let's say their team wins an award, and they go, "Oh, I guess I got a handle on this thing. Can I just go out and start acting, auditioning for other things?" Do you think those people who have never had any kind of workshops or training or anything, do they get ostracized, or do you think that?
No, I don't think so. I don't. No, I don't. I don't think so. I think we all come at it from all kinds of different experiences, especially in the indie world. We're a little bit more. We're open. We're a community. We don't want to ostracize people just because they don't have the understanding what the craft means. But hey, if they're the right part and they got the talent and the knack for it, why not? I think it's something that helps to understand whether you're coming in new or it's something that you can develop later on if you're coming into acting without those set of skills. At the end of the day, you're going to develop those set of skills regardless.
Do you think that would happen in LA?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's it might depend on different circles, and that's just because LA is just so it's so huge, but it's also so small.
Yeah.
And that was like what every time I go down there, I'm amazed by because here it's a small world. Like the Seattle or Pacific Northwest indie film scene is a very small world. You get to know a few people, you know them all. And LA, it's the same thing, except the only issue with that is that everybody's a little bit more, I wouldn't say cutthroat, but definitely assured of their public image or how they're marketing themselves, or because everything's so public, everything's so um, out there because everybody's watching each other and trying to be like, how do I become more competitive? And in order to do that, I kind of have to know what everybody else is doing. So everybody else knows what everybody else is doing, especially in LA, because it's that sense of competitiveness, but it's also that I need to develop my network to also get ahead.
Yeah.
Because this person could also lead to that, and who knows, this actor might be a director someday, so forth and so on.
It's well, I have no idea what you're doing, so I think we're safe here. This is the big Northwest. What? No, do you continue to go to LA? Are you auditioning in LA like currently? And do you have an agent?
No,
Do you think
no. I'm firmly here. I'm here. I've planted roots here. I learned some time back that I'm now of an age where it's like I just don't want to.
I'm now of an age.
I'm now of an age where it's like because I don't have that all that energy and motivation that I once had when I first was here. And I'm like, I can really do anything if I put my mind to it. And that lasted up until about, I would say for a lot of people around COVID times, when a lot of us had to do some self reflection and understanding what our priorities are. And I knew that my priority was being involved as a creative, and it didn't have to be in a professional setting. That was a light bulb for me, that I was too concerned in trying to make it a profession, and trying to figure out what was going to be my way to get into it, rather than just saying, okay, I'm going to be okay with a couple of bucks in savings and live out of my car and doing whatever it takes to audition my ass off and maybe just work at Starbucks forever. However, knowing that I didn't want to do that and I wanted to be a jack of all trades, I felt very at ease here, especially after I've developed so much of my network here. I've developed so many contacts to the point where I'm now uh, comfortable creating my production company and launching my own projects, in addition to helping out people with their own projects.
And that's satisfying.
Oh yes, yes. I would say it's a lot more satisfying to have that uh, freedom, that flexibility, because if I was in LA, I feel like I'd be more stuck in a rut of trying to chase that particular look, that particular uh, way to market myself. If I have to be behind the camera, then I need to really focus on the camera department. If I'm really going to do that, then I have to do that and nothing else. You really don't have that flexibility to experiment because it's your livelihood that's at stake. Whereas here, most of us already have a livelihood that helps pay the bills to help us be creative and help us um, be able to explore, and hopefully don't cost an arm and a leg doing it.
What kind of advice would you give an actor who is either established or not, or just starting out, to enter into the directing role and filmmaking role?
Um, Here or anywhere,
Anyway,
because, well, I say here
other than LA.
because, yeah, well, I mean here because, well, I guess you can say in LA too. I mean, the 48 is a great opportunity. And the reason being is that because it happens every year, if not twice a year, there's always a regular opportunity to do something, and it's only on the weekend. It's not a huge time commitment, but then you can do different things every year. So if you're wanting to branch out, maybe not be a director, but work on crew, be someone who's just like, I'm willing to be a PA. I'm willing to be an extra set of hands. I'm not going to say I'm only want to be an actor. And I, as a 48-hour team lead, this is one of my pet peeves. This is another advice is those who just say I only want to be an actor, because I don't want them on my team, because I don't know if I can have you as a part, because we don't know what the script's going to be. So you may get a part, but you may end up hauling stuff around. But I want folks who are going to be okay with it because they're still part of the process. And that's like where I'm at too. I'm okay if I'm in front of the camera or if I'm behind. I I know there are some people who only gain fulfillment by being an actor and having that creative exploration, so forth and so on, and they could care less about everything else. They can care less about the technology, about the filmmaking process, about the administration part of it. To me, I'm interested in everything, because remember, I have a degree in multimedia. I want to try it all. And so 48s are a great way to experiment with that, or just being a PA on a friend's shoot. Um, I would say production help. I mean, not necessarily a producer, but maybe like an associate producer or someone that can help out with production management is also great too, because then you can hang back and see direction taking place. Then you can see how, like, someone, for example, like, I'm going to say Deborah Prawley, because we just worked with her. She's a fantastic director, but I love how she works because she's also an actor slash director slash producer. But I, as a producer on that set, got to watch how she worked with those actors, how the actors worked with her. And I'm like, oh, okay. And there was like a few tips that I might want to talk about when we talk about the technology side of things too.
Well, bring it up.
Uh,
Talk
yeah,
about it.
yeah, yeah,
Tell me.
yeah. So one of the best things I saw was this wireless monitoring thing that she had an iPad. So she was able to monitor, wirelessly monitor everything going on in camera, which is fantastic because back in the day, you would have to have a video village or you have to have, you would have to kind of peer over your DP's shoulder to kind of see that tiny little viewfinder screen. It was, or you just kind of prayed for the best and just trust that the DP knew what they were doing
Yeah.
and just understood that everything was in shot and in frame and then it took place. But here she was able to she was in real time able to adjust and able to tweak and able to do what it was needed for both actors and both crew. And that was pretty amazing. But to be able to do that quickly and to make those decisions in order to get whatever it is to get the scene done. So that was great to watch. So that would be my best thing that I can offer is maybe don't go into it being a director right away, but to really learn by watching other directors, by taking a lot of other workshops where you can both direct and act. Again, plug for Freehold, they do an actor slash director workshop at the beginning of the year. I believe. Don't quote me on that, but look it up. But I think that's a great opportunity for those that want to dip into both either side, whether you're a director, want to be an actor, or vice versa.
When using the iPad, did that reduce the number of playbacks that you could
Yes.
watch? Yeah.
Yes,
So it
it
sped up the
did. I mean,
process, right?
she could still play it back. Also, she could play it back on the iPad as well, just to make sure and just kind of review everything.
Yeah.
But to kind of get to see everything in camera, but get to see everything on scene was, I believe, a huge time saver, and especially for me, who's from a production side of thing, time is of the essence.
Yeah.
I've been in AD a lot of times where I had to be the one being like, "We're burning daylight, we're burning daylight, let's go, let's go." So it was it's nice to see at least some of the technology um, being more useful than a hindrance.
Yeah. What kind of camera was it? And what was the tech? Was it like a
Oh,
HoloLens?
it was definitely Canon.
Okay.
Canon. I can't remember. I took a picture of it. That much I know. It was the gray one of the later model ones. I can't remember. It was
Great.
it was a cinematic. It was a smaller
Yeah.
cinematic
Yeah.
Canon.
The C something.
Yes,
What?
see something.
So was there like an adapter that would plug into the iPad from the camera,
Yes.
like a
Yeah.
HoloLens? Okay.
Yep.
Receiver transmitter. Okay.
Yep. But it's all
Cool.
Bluetooth now, so that's great. It's
Yeah.
also like you could do a lot of things by just having one thing that gets to talk to a lot of other stuff. I remember back in the day when we were doing Z Nation, I was amazed by just how much they had just to get two cameras talking to Video Village. It was a lot of gadgets and gizmos and wireless type of stuff. And they said, you couldn't have any cell phones because it would interfere with the signal, all of that type of thing. And now it's all because it's all Bluetooth. So it's like I don't know about the technology behind it, but it seems like it's like a dedicated channels and paths that don't get to interfere with. And it's a like something about low latency. Now I'm talking out my ass at this
No,
point.
you're
but-
right. Yeah, because when you're transmitting video footage, there could be a delay, right?
Right.
You have
Right.
that low latency, so
Yeah.
it's like efforts going through. So, can you share with us a memorable moment of one of your projects that has stayed with you over the years?
A memorable moment. A specific memorable moment.
Yeah, something that you're proud of, something that when you directed, you wrote, something that you produced.
Um, there was a 48 that I directed called Twisted Sisters. And I think that was my highlight because I got to direct that in full. And it really put me through my paces as a director for sure. Not just working with talent. Talent I can work with. That was not the issue. It was all of the other, the shot list, the planning out the camera angles, really being able to articulate to the rest of your crew what needs to happen. Mostly because up until then, it was very minimal. Usually it's like just me behind a camera, and then I can just do whatever it is I need to do to direct from there. But when you have a crew that's following you, you as the leader have to lead. And sometimes it's hard to understand that what it means to be able to articulate to everybody that's there uh, to make what you want happen and being comfortable with that. And sometimes you have a director who's like, I don't know, I'm afraid to tell the DP this and that and the other. DP's like, what do you want? Where do you want it? Where like maybe I can say let's do this, but really this is your call. And directors need to be assertive enough to make those types of calls and to have that type of ownership.
For those of us who don't know what a 48-hour film festival is, it's you have to create a film in 48 hours. Do you I've never led a team, I've never directed on one of those. And here's the reason is how do you feel about that pressure? The time
It's
crunch?
it's interesting, but I think especially the more that you do it, the 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 less that you feel because you not only have know what the pitfalls are in doing a 48, but you gain to develop like a bit of a flow, kind of an understanding that at the end of the day it's not going to win an Oscar. I mean, who knows? But more than likely, it won't. So there's not a lot too much of that type of pressure. Whereas if I'm doing a short film and then there's money on the line, and we really got to actually make this be a return on investment. That's a different type of pressure that you really don't have with a 48.
Yeah. Did you edit this one, Crystal Sister?
Yes.
Did
So
you
that I think that was the other thing that really helped me out is if I'm directing, I'm also editing.
because you're doing it in your head, right? As
Yep,
you go.
yep. I'm doing the edit in my head, and it's just so much more easier for me to just at the end of the day just go up and put it together because I've had instances where I was not the editor, and that's where we run into issues.
What kind of issues? What was like
Oh, not
miscommunication or different visions or timing or
no, not it's definitely not miscommunication, but it's a lot of things breaking down. Um, waiting, having an editor who's just waiting at the last minute to get everything and then doing everything at the last minute. And because of that, it ends up being returned late. So a 48-hour is a competition and you have to do it within 48 hours or that's it. If you don't do it within 48 hours, you can't compete with all the other ones for the awards and to go on to um, the nationals, the finals, whatever they are. So there's sometimes when you just when I get to edit, I have uh, that sense of I know that I can do this. because I've done it before. I've edited for a 48-hour before, so kind of have, you know, I know what it takes to do things very, very quickly, as opposed to relying on an editor who's used to doing things without that kind of time pressure. Or
Okay,
they're
so
like, oh, I was waiting for this. I was waiting for that. You don't have to wait for it. It's go, go, go. It's like you can be doing the assembly. You can be doing be gathering B-roll. You could be gathering sound effects, so forth and so on. That there's so many things that could be happening at that same time. So it's kind of like, the drawback of me both directing and editing too. But I would say also build up a library if you can. Have an account to royalty-free type of libraries. I have a couple that I heavily rely on now, both as a filmmaker, as a YouTube creator, and as a video producer.
who do you use? I always see
Uh, Artlist.io is my go-to.
I see their ads all the time.
But
Like,
here's the thing. Here's the reason why I like it.
yeah,
It's because their stuff is pretty dang good for being royalty free. Are you
yeah,
going to Adobe Stock? Adobe Stock,
yeah.
it's bare bones. It's like, because it's like most people who have essentially what happens is Adobe pays like someone like pennies on the dollar for a whole bunch of content that they just make en masse. And it's like, especially if you're doing music, it's like they kind of have like this music sausage maker, whatever the app is called. But basically, it's like the same format. It's the same. Like, you heard one song, you've heard them all, and they kind of it's the same format. But that's because they're making these like a ton of them. It's just slightly different variations. But Artlist, I don't know what it is, but they have a really great deal with actual artists, like musicians, where they have vocalized songs. For example, you don't get a lot of that with Adobe Stock, for example. You get actual vocalized songs rather than just instrumental. Um, you get a lot of great diversity as well. And so I think that's also very important, because you never know what you're going to run into. Whereas Adobe Stock sometimes kind of relies on the same corporate branded type of thing, because that's who their main target demographics are. But
Yeah.
Artlist, they're supporting a wide variety of content creators that need a wide variety of content, and so that's their library. I think is developed towards that. I can't say there's a few other ones, but it's just Artlist is the one I know.
Right. I use Envato. That's fine.
Yeah, that was the other one.
So, being an actor and director, when you're bringing the character to life, you have to have a relationship with the director, or if you're the director, you have to have a relationship with the actor. Is there a collaboration that specifically enhanced your performance as an actor working with the director? And what was it that made that collaboration and bring the character to life? Why was that important? I think you kind of talked about that in theater. You said there was a director there that really
Yeah,
helped you kind of hone
yeah,
in.
Larry Albert. So there's been a few others where they kind of understood how to work with people.
Yeah.
The reason why I say that is it takes emotional intelligence to understand when someone's not really getting it. And instead of saying, no, it has to be like this, that's not how you lead people. You lead people by being an example, or you lead by understanding what their strengths are, and having them focus on that rather than their weaknesses, and then being able to understand how they communicate to get to a point where then they start to improve, or get into a flow or process or what have you that gets them to understand it. So at some point within, either as a director or an actor, a light bulb goes off. Say, oh, I get it. Now I get it. And a good director knows how to make that happen, like almost instantaneously and regularly, consistently, as opposed to a micromanagee or tour who has a very, very specific vision and needs to have actors as puppets and do exactly as they want in order to meet whatever it is that they want, rather than enjoying the art that then is created with the actors. That the second point is a good director also is able to let go. Good directors that I've worked with have been able to let it fly
Yeah.
and then adjust as needed. But trust in the process rather than dictate it.
Have you ever worked with an actor that just wasn't getting it?
Sure.
What did you
Yeah.
do?
Yeah. Be okay with it. Or sometimes it's about different tactics that you can utilize. Sometimes it might be, hey, let's try it this way. Uh, Hopefully you have the ability to maybe change the line a little bit where it makes a little bit more sense to them, or get them to break them out of it. Sometimes it helps. Like some actors tend to get stuck in a rut, especially when it's like take after take after take. So you got to break them out, and that could mean just like taking a break, like get them out, like kind of talk to them, just be like, what do you think? What do you think's going on?
How do you feel?
Or workshop it out and improvise something and see what happens.
Do you ever? I know this is a no-no, but I'm kind of curious. I don't know if actually I don't even know if it is a no-no. Have you ever had? Have you ever like since you're an actor and you're directing this whatever you're directing? Have you ever like tried to act it out for them?
So that is a no-no. That's called when the director gets out of their seat.
Okay.
And a director should stay in their seat and be able to articulate and communicate whatever it is that, and then trust in the process. So when we say acting it out, that's kind of what I mean by the director wanting the actors to be puppets and wanting to
Do it like this.
do it like this. Sometimes, I mean, it could help to have a little bit of an example. You know, here's how I want you to say it, or rather, hey, maybe you want to try it like this, da 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 da, da, but instead, da 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 da. Just kind of play with it, see what you think. So I think that to me is a little bit better than
It's not really acting it out.
it's not acting. It's more of a suggestion.
That's very borderline. I'm just giving you a line read.
It is, but it's hey, whatever works.
What are like some of the unique challenges that you've been faced working on indie films?
Oh, well, resources, obviously. I mean, resources uh, can be a blessing and a curse. Sometimes it's nice to have, again, going back to the 48, because you're working within a certain limitation, but you understand what those limitations are. And so then you can be creative within those limitations. But then again, it might help if you had enough of a budget to, like, let's say, have a nice Ronin to get a good, smooth, clear tracking shot. Or it might be nice if we just had a drone for this particular thing. Or it might be nice. So the great thing is that a lot of this stuff is able to be more available to the mass market, whereas before it was kind of locked behind a production house where you had to have insurance and you have to rent it. It costs a lot of money. But you can now do a lot of the same techniques with consumer, prosumer type of stuff that's out there.
Yeah.
So then it means the flip side of that is having too many resources where you just have so many things happening where it's a lot of risk for something to go wrong. The more technology you have, the more chances of something not working. So Back in the day, we would be working with red cameras, and reds are notorious for overheating. And I was an AD at the time, and I was just getting so frustrated because we had such long turnarounds because they had to shoot with this red, and it would take forever to get the dang thing working again. And you have actors who are like, let's go, let's go, let's do this. And then they're like sitting there and they're either freezing because of this and the other. Um, you, you know how it is. So it's like, sometimes it's nice to have something that is simple but effective to get the job done.
Tell me about your upcoming projects that you're working on or currently working on.
My upcoming and currently working on project right now, this is my baby. It is the Inhuman Protection Agency, or the IHPA project. This is what I like to call a DIY Washington-based cinematic universe. And that's a lot, but it's a very ambitious project of mine to launch something that we can call our own. That's an IP that could create short films, feature films, all kinds of other types of creative content based on a particular world, rather than selling the rights to Netflix or whatever and they go make it somewhere else. The project, the IHPA project, or the Inhuman Protection Agency, is all about the confluence of supernatural beings, monsters, as it were, who are living among normal humans, and stuff happens. So the world, in this particular case, is supernatural beings are known, and instead of being feared and being hunted down, the U.S. government decided that they're going to treat them basically like anybody else that they're going to colonize, and that is to integrate them to the point where they basically become either subdued into society, or they're just swept under the rug. So you have folks like, vampires, werewolves, so forth, so on, merfolk, sorry. And they're trying to do what they can. They're just like, they got to pay the bills too, right? So we're trying to turn all of these supernatural cryptid type of tropes on its head to tell this the flip side of the story of what it means to be someone who's like this creature, who has to live with the necessity to feed off of fresh blood, or to transform into some hideous monster. And what does that mean when you have a human society that is already xenophobic to begin with? So we're exploring this world, and the idea is we're going to launch a series, a full-on, like, as much of a TV-like series as possible that we can make here in Washington State. It's going to take a lot of money, a lot of resources to get it done, because I want to do it right, and I want it to have all the wonderful production values so it can compete with what is out there on Netflix and streaming services. But again, I want to make it here. So the challenge is, how are we able to compete by developing a really incredible, engaging story, but also have a fan base that's going to demand it? So what we're doing is, on YouTube, if you search for the Inhuman Protection Agency or the IHPA project, or just IHPA, you'll come across
We'll link
us.
that.
Thank you very
We'll
much.
link it in the show notes.
Check out the link. And we, instead of just going whole hog and just making like a pilot or making a full-on short as a proof of concept, we're doing short little videos that we can do on YouTube as like character vlogs. So imagine someone within this world who's just talking to the camera, and they may be a mermaid who is trying to experience what life is on land, and trying to date two-leggers who may not understand what it means to actually be a mermaid. Or It could mean trying to come up with some other clever examples. You can go out there and see for yourself. But the idea is that we can use this opportunity to create a whole bunch of small little stories that fit within this world to help A, build up an audience, but B, provide regular paid opportunities for actors that want to participate or writers that want to participate.
So so right now so let me just break this down for everyone. You're having actors vlog their story. They can come up with, do you need to approve the story? Do you need to look that over? Or okay, you do have
So we have a show Bible. We do have rules in place of what can and cannot happen because we have to operate under the rules of what this world is like. So we can't have someone just come out of left field and be like, okay, I'm going to be an alien that just now, because we're not doing a sci-fi, we're doing supernatural. So, there's like those types of things that we need to follow. When I first launched this last year, I was really leaning on folks that could improvise something, that maybe something that just gets workshopped out, but at the end, it is really up to them to provide that performance, which would include the creation of their character and their scene that they're going to perform. So because I relied so much on the actors, I found out very quickly that it's very hard to do. It's a very bit of an ask, especially for so many folks is just willing, just give me the script. I'm used to working with the script because that's how we work, rather than having me do all the work for you. But I kind of saw it as like a co-creative type of thing. But as this world grew and grew, and the more characters we started to create, and the more stories that are going to become more involved and intertwined, that we had to have a good bearing of controlling that, so that we can have a cohesive story that first of all made sense, but also lend itself to what we're going to have as a produced series, which will be scripted, which will be fully produced and everything like that. It'll be more controlled. So this YouTube, the more of the YouTube short form content is leading up to that.
okay. So it's more of like introducing the characters. They're going to be part of
exactly.
The
so
okay.
That's what we've done so far. We're doing what we call season 0.1, and that is a lot of beginnings of stories.
Okay.
Understanding what these characters are, like who are they just at first, but leading on to what could happen, or ooh, I want to find out more because of this. So when I'm just going to pick out someone out of randomly, but Abby Akenazar, who played Ilaria the Narian, who's a mermaid, so she's dating men on land for the first time. She came up with the script herself, but it led to a lot of ideas that me and the writing team are like, okay, where can we actually take this? Where do we see Ilaria in her navigation in this very dangerous world? And so then we're creating antagonists that might be, what happens if we have a human that's set out to basically take out every merfolk that's coming on land because something happened in his past out in sea? And so he has this vendetta against these abominations, and maybe he's called the fisherman or something like that. I don't want to go too much into details because you really should stay tuned. So please subscribe to the channel. That would be great. And give us a like when you can. It really helps us out. We're not even asking for money just yet. But one thing I really impress upon is it's going to help us get seen by other folks, which would then help create other opportunities. So any free press of that like button, any free press of that subscribe button really gets us closer to that goal.
So what is this? Is the casting closed, or are you still open to other people?
that's the beauty of this project, is because we're always coming up with new stories, because we're trying to, well, the goal is to release a video every week, one video every week. And so that's a lot of videos and a lot of content. And we could have many characters. And so far our writing team has been great. We've already have, I would say, a good 10 videos in the hopper as it is. And there's quite a few I need to actually go out and cast. So those could be anybody that's out there, across a range of experiences. They don't have to be someone who's very well known, but anybody who's willing to take on a character and just work with it, and wanting to play within this space, are more than welcome to audition, and we would love to have them on board.
Do they have to be in Washington State?
Ideally, yes. And that's because we really want to keep this as local as possible.
Okay.
Again, the idea being that if we go too further afield, we might, I wouldn't say lose that control, but there's also the we could technically get rebates and some other things from the state if we keep everything local as much as possible, especially once we get to the series. And then we have so many people here who need those opportunities to begin with. I think people in other markets, they have plenty of those opportunities. Like, we don't need folks from Atlanta. Love you to death out in Atlanta, but you guys have enough of your own opportunities as it is. So we needed something that creates stuff for us here.
So all you Washington actors, contact David if you want
Spokane
to be part
too,
of this project.
East Side, or
It's part of Washington.
yeah, Eastern Washington. Yeah, you call us.
Let me just break this down, because it sounds like if you have an actor, he does the audition, you guys cast them, they come on board, they make up a story, a vlog of a character. Your writing team will take that idea and expand that character.
We can do that, but what we're doing right now is, we were doing that before. We're now transitioning to pre-written scripts and ideas that are coming from our writing team that we will then cast.
So then it's easier. It's easier. You don't have to come up with anything. You just audition and get casted. That's
exactly
a piece of cake.
And they're really short. They're like, we try to keep them about 5 minutes or so. Yeah. So even though we are asking folks to self-record a lot of these, it's not that long, and that DIY sense lends, I think, lends itself well to the vlogness of these types of videos. And I think the more that we do these, the more different characters that we can get out there, that someone out there is going to latch on to it.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, I want to see more of that.
Do they send you the footage, then you edit it?
Yes.
Throw it on YouTube?
So all we need is the bare footage of them doing the performance, and then it can be done in several takes. I've suggested, you know what, you don't even have to send me separate takes. You can just do it all in one take, and I'll edit around it. Because I'm used to doing that in the video production world anyways.
Yeah.
So it just makes it, we're trying to make it as easy on them as possible. So it's not feel like, yeah, I have to do this myself, but rather it's like, hey, I'm doing this and I'm being part of this really great project.
How many characters do you have now? Ballpark.
Well, we're hopefully this week, knock on wood, will be our 10th episode for season 0.1. And so far, I think we have, because some folks have done 2 videos. I think all in all, we have about 8, 9 characters right now. And we probably have, I think, a potential for almost like 20 doing these. And that's not to include the recurring characters that are going to be part of the series that we're also going to want to get involved early on in this process.
And then once you've created the show, what's the plan? How are you going to broadcast that show?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I've been racking my brains because when you're on, it's easy to just give the IP away to Netflix and let them handle it, and then they provide everything for you. But being on YouTube, and especially if you don't have that big of a audience, um, the selling point's not really there. It's not something that you can see a lot of return on investment, unfortunately, no matter how much you do with Patreon and subscriptions and everything else. So I'm mulling over different um, different distribution platforms that are probably geared towards independent producers, and I've seen a couple of them. So I'm still doing some more research, and then hopefully I can come across one that might be um, that might work, but also would attract some producers to help us out with it.
When do you want to have everything casted and ready to go? Like you said, you have 8 people doing characters right now, and you have about 20 in your catalog.
Right.
When do you want to have all those filled?
Well, we're casting as we go.
Okay.
So as we create a script and that one's ready to go, we'll just go ahead and cast it. And keeping in mind that that character could be brought on again, it could be someone that we would want to consider as a recurring role, or it might be, it could be just something fun as well. So it just all depends. The mainline series we right now I have in mind for the principal cast. So those will be the ones that'll be part of the A story and the B story. It would just be them, and
Right.
those would be separate from all the other ones that we're doing on
Are
YouTube.
those all filled already?
No,
Okay.
not yet.
So
The idea is we want to do this as a SAG-AFTRA contract, and we really want to make sure that we have a solid script for the pilot, and then making a teaser trailer for the pilot and get all the attention that we can and help to get that pilot done.
Yeah.
And so that will be a good indicator of how we can move with that forward. But the pilot will be indicative of the what you could expect with the recurring characters and the overall story arc.
So where can people reach you if they want to audition?
If they want to audition, please reach out to me. The best way possible would be, let's say, I would say reach me on Facebook.com. I'm at David J. Nance on
Okay.
Facebook.
We'll link
Just send me a DM and saying I'm interested in the IHPA project. Please keep me in mind for any future upcoming roles that you might have. I'll definitely put you on the list.
Awesome. One last question before we dock the ship. What is your favorite tech for film production?
I'm going to say it's a cell phone.
Why?
And a cell phone is just one of those, I'd say, indispensable tools now, because even if you might not be shooting the thing on the cell phone, it's great for previs, for example. It's great for just getting a look for location scouting. It's great just to check things out, and even doing workshopping scenes out with actors, and just kind of doing everything that you can to put it all into one place. So the less other type of equipment that you have, the less risk that you have for failure, like I said. So then that way you put all your pre-work using your phone, or staying in contact with everything else through the creative process. Um, I I don't think there's anything better than that.
What is there a specific phone that you recommend?
I'm an Android user. Uh,
Is there a specific app? Like you
Um,
said, Previs. Is
I
there a
do.
Previs app?
I do have. Well, I have what's called Filmic Pro,
Oh yeah.
And I have a lot of nice, I just call them DP tools. So I can do like aperture and things like that. I have something that opens things up a little bit more to create. I mean, especially if I'm using this for my own YouTube content, I can dial things in a little bit better. I really, again, try to keep it simple. Just because, like I said, the more tools, the more apps, the more risk for failure, but also more frustration for me to figure it all out.
Okay, keep learning, keep on moving.
I'm still doing that though.
What's your definition of success?
Oh, this has changed. As I said before, I was so focused back in the day on being professional meant being successful. And to me, being able to do what you want that gets seen by other people. Now, how many people? I think that's probably up to you. Right now, success is we get 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year so we can monetize.
There you go. Awesome. So sign up, subscribe. Thank you,
And
David.
hit the like button too.
Hit the like button. Does that count when they like it?
Oh yeah, it's all engagement, and it all means the more people engage, the more it gets seen by other people, and the more that they get engaged, it just snowballs from there.
All right. Subscribe and like on both our channels.
Both the channels, yes. This channel too.
Thank you, David. I appreciate it.
Thank you.